what are one or two issues that you think would make the most sense? And we can go into more of them in detail, but things that you think that policymakers aren't talking about, should be talking about, have been part of plans that didn't quite go anywhere and should be looked at again. Tori, anything that you would, two or three options you think?
Oh, yeah, I get to pick the low-hanging fruit, right?
Everybody can go back to what you said.
Advantage here. I get to go with the low-hanging fruit.
We all agree with Tori, that's
yeah. Well, I mean, obviously any kind of reform package has got to come from the revenue side and the benefit side. And initially, the first thing you're going to do, if I were going to write this, the first thing I would do is you've got to bring in more revenue, probably by expanding the amount of money that's subject to the Social Security payroll tax. Sort of move us back to 90% of covered wages. And then on the benefit side, I think you've got to raise the retirement age.
Steve?
Yeah, I mean, what's so disappointing, as Mark has already pointed out, had we done this, years ago, I mean, I was at the Senate Finance Committee from 2001 through 2010. And, I was there during the Bush administration, and we had a series of hearings back in 2005. And, it looked like the Finance Committee would actually do something back then, at least at the committee level. We were trying to, prepare hearings and prepare markup in committee. And, we couldn't reach agreement among ourselves on the Republican side. But, the ideas that we were looking at, if you'd have started in 2005. I mean, Mark made reference to wage and price indexing. I mean, one of the things that, people focus on, the Social Security benefit, you get an annual cost of living adjustment, which keeps your benefits up with inflation. But that applies to existing beneficiaries, people who are already receiving benefits. What not everyone realizes is that benefits for newly eligible recipients are indexed to wages, meaning that from one generation to the next, benefits are actually growing at the rate of average wages in the economy.
Initial benefits. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so each new cohort of beneficiaries receives higher real benefits as long as wages rise faster than prices, which historically they have by about 1%. As long as that continues, real benefits are rising. Now, when you throw in increased life expectancy, lifetime benefits are rising even more. And so what people don't realize is that what the program has done is we've promised to pay higher and higher benefits on a lifetime basis, adjusted for wage growth and adjusted for life expectancy. And if you simply slowed the rate of growth, we always in Washington, we talk about, what is a spending cut? Well, if I plan to spend more money and I spend less than I planned, but more than I am currently, is that a cut or an increase? Well, in the case of Social Security, benefits are rising. Real lifetime benefits are rising significantly over time. But anytime you say you're going to cut benefits, people go, oh my God, you're going to, cut benefits for people who are currently receiving them. And what you say is, well, no, if we started today, or in this case, had we started back in 2005, you could have simply slowed the rate of growth so that benefits over time would come down relative to what had been promised. People would still be getting, benefits as high in the future as they are today, adjusted for inflation, but they'd be less than wage growth. Had we done that back then, the problem would have been solved, but we didn't. We continued to delay, and now we're left with a real dilemma because there's no incremental phased in policy change, whether it's the retirement age or wage indexing or anything like that could be phased in over time, applying only to new beneficiaries. We've lost that opportunity. I mean, we've waited so long that anything that you do today that's phased in will not have enough savings to avoid trust fund insolvency. There's simply there's no way to square that circle. And, that's the dilemma we face.
Mark, what are your favorite options?
Sure. Well, just to add to what Steve said, it's not just that lifetime benefits are growing from cohort to cohort. It's actually that they're growing disproportionately for the wealthiest, highest earning seniors, because those are the ones that are seeing the biggest gains in their life expectancy and recording the most increases in their wage income. So the kinds of policies that make the benefit formula more progressive also get at the core of this cost growth. With that said, and that's, while I would absolutely focus on that as my biggest savings, We have an economic problem separate from separate but related to our Social Security problem. And that is we have an aging population. We're seeing this now with inflation. Workers that are near retirement have left the labor force and aren't coming back. We're not replacing them with new workers because we've basically cut off the immigration spigot because we're not having a lot of kids.
Step up, Mark.
And so we have to deal with that, and Social Security can help. Social Security sends many important signals and incentives to people about how much to save, how long to work, when to retire, how to retire. And so adjustments to things like the retirement age, changing the way the benefits are calculated. So we look at you on an annual basis and count all of your years of work rather than basically giving you nothing for your last few years of work. Getting rid of the retirement earnings test, which everybody thinks is a tax, even though it's a deferral. Changing some of the language around Social Security. These kinds of changes can encourage people that want to work longer, which it turns out, and I know we'll get into this discussion, turns out is not only good for Social Security and for the economy, it's also usually good for the individual. People that delay their retirement and work longer tend to live longer, tend to be happier, healthier. They drink less. They have lower divorce rates because they're not home annoying their spouse all day. On every angle, working longer seems to be a benefit for both